The United States will provide no support and recognition to the International Criminal Court. As far as America is concerned, the ICC has no jurisdiction, no legitimacy, and no authority. The ICC claims near universal jurisdiction over the citizens of every country, violating all principles of justice, fairness, and due process. We will never surrender America's sovereignty to an unelected, unaccountable global bureaucracy.
The Trump administration is pushing the International Criminal Court to revise its founding treaty to prevent investigations into the president and his senior officials, warning that the U.S. may impose new sanctions if the court refuses, a Trump administration official said, as per Reuters report. If the court fails to comply with this U.S. demand, along with two other demands, of halting investigations against Israeli officials regarding the Gaza conflict and officially closing a previous probe into U.S. military actions in Afghanistan, Washington could impose additional sanctions on ICC officials and possibly target the court itself, the report said. The Trump administration official, who requested anonymity, stated that the U.S. has conveyed its demands to ICC member states, including some allies, and has formally notified the court. Last November, ICC judges issued arrest warrants for Israeli PM Benjamin Netanyahu, former defense chief Yoav Gallant, and Hamas leader Ibrahim al-Masri over alleged Gaza war crimes. Meanwhile, a 2020 ICC probe into potential U.S. troop crimes in Afghanistan has been deprioritized since 2021, but not formally closed. Earlier this year, the U.S. sanctioned 9 ICC officials, including judges and prosecutors, to push the court to drop these charges. But it has not targeted the court itself, which would significantly disrupt its operations. It smells like panic in Trump's ranks. But why? Hear what the official said, Reuters report wrote, and I quote,
"There is growing concern that in 2029 the ICC will turn its attention to the president, to the vice president, to the Secretary of War and others, and pursue prosecutions against them. That is unacceptable, and we will not allow it to happen."
Any attempt to amend the Rome Statute to meet U.S. demands would be challenging and time-consuming, needing the support of 2/3 of the countries that have ratified the treaty. The ICC's Public Affairs Unit, which represents the court and its presidency, said, "Amendments to the Rome Statute are within the prerogative of states' parties, but disadvantaged to the United States because it is not a signatory to the 2002 Rome Statute that created the ICC as a court of last resort, with authority to prosecute heads of state, which remains outside the tribunal's jurisdiction." In February 2025, Trump signed an executive order sanctioning the ICC, calling its actions against the U.S. and Israel illegitimate and baseless. The order imposes financial and visa restrictions on those assisting ICC probes of Americans or allies. Trump signed it during Israeli PM Benjamin Netanyahu's visit to Washington, following last November's ICC arrest warrant for Netanyahu over alleged Gaza war crimes, which Israel denies.
The outrageous decision by the ICC prosecutor, Karim Khan, to seek arrest warrants against the democratically elected leaders of Israel is a moral outrage of historic proportions. It will cast an everlasting mark of shame on the International Court. Mr. Khan creates a twisted and false moral equivalence between the leaders of Israel and the henchmen of Hamas. This is like creating a moral equivalence after September 11th between President Bush and Osama bin Laden, or during World War II between FDR and Hitler. What a travesty of justice, what a disgrace. The prosecutor's absurd charges against me and Israel's defense minister are merely an attempt to deny Israel the basic right of self-defense. And I assure you of one thing, this attempt will utterly fail.
Trump versus ICC clash is not new. Trump has long criticized the ICC and previously took measures to sanction the court during his first term, targeting officials probing potential U.S. war crimes in Afghanistan. These sanctions were later removed under President Joe Biden's administration. On August 20th, the Trump administration sanctioned 2 ICC judges and 2 prosecutors, intensifying pressure on the court over its actions against Israeli leaders and past probes of U.S. officials. Secretary of State Marco Rubio called the ICC a national security threat, accusing it of politicization, overreach, and targeting the U.S. and Israel. The ICC can prosecute individuals, including sitting heads of state, for alleged crimes committed in member states. The Trump official informed Reuters about an open chatter in the legal community that suggested the court might target Trump and his top aides in 2029, when the Republican president's term ends. The solution is that they need to change the Rome Statute to make it very clear that they don't have jurisdiction, the official said, Reuters reported. Since September, the U.S. military has carried out strikes on suspected drug vessels in the Caribbean and Pacific, killing over 80 people. Congress plans to investigate whether a strike that killed 2 survivors was unlawful, while the White House maintains it was legal. When asked if the ICC demand was linked to potential probes of U.S. actions in Venezuela, the official declined to comment, according to Reuters reports. Let's replay Trump's famous 2018 UNGA speech where he claimed, "The ICC has no jurisdiction, no legitimacy, and no authority, and it violates all principles of justice, fairness, and due process."
I spoke before this body last year and warned that the UN Human Rights Council had become a grave embarrassment to this institution, shielding egregious human rights abusers while bashing America and its many friends. Our ambassador to the United Nations, Nikki Haley, laid out a clear agenda for reform, but despite reported and repeated warnings, no action at all was taken. So the United States took the only responsible course. We withdrew from the Human Rights Council, and we will not return until real reform is enacted. For similar reasons, the United States will provide no support and recognition to the International Criminal Court. As far as America is concerned, the ICC has no jurisdiction, no legitimacy, and no authority. The ICC claims near universal jurisdiction over the citizens of every country, violating all principles of justice, fairness, and due process. We will never surrender America's sovereignty to an unelected, unaccountable global bureaucracy. America is governed by Americans. We reject the ideology of globalism, and we embrace the doctrine of patriotism. Around the world, responsible nations must defend against threats to sovereignty, not just from global governments, but also from other new forms of coercion and domination. In America, we believe strongly in energy security for ourselves and for our allies. We have become the largest energy producer Anywhere on the face of the earth, the United States stands ready to export our abundant, affordable supply of oil, clean coal, and natural gas. OPEC and OPEC nations are, as usual, ripping off the rest of the world. And I don't like it. Nobody should like it. We defend many of these nations for nothing, and then they take advantage of us by giving us high oil prices. Not good. We want them to stop raising prices. We want them to start lowering prices, and they must contribute substantially to military protection from now on. We are not going to put up with it, these horrible prices, much longer. Reliance on a single foreign supplier can leave a nation vulnerable to extortion and intimidation. That is why we congratulate European states such as Poland for leading the construction of a Baltic pipeline so that nations are not dependent on Russia to meet their energy needs. Germany will become totally dependent on Russian energy if it does not immediately change course. Here in the Western Hemisphere, we are committed to maintaining our independence from the encroachment of expansionist foreign powers. It has been the formal policy of our country since President Monroe that we reject the interference of foreign nations in this hemisphere and in our own affairs. The United States has recently strengthened our laws to better screen foreign investments in our country for national security threats. And we welcome cooperation with countries in this region and around the world that wish to do the same. You need to do it for your own protection. The United States is also working with partners in Latin America to confront threats to sovereignty from uncontrolled migration. Tolerance for human struggling and human smuggling and trafficking is not humane. It's a horrible thing that's going on at levels that nobody has ever seen before. It's very, very cruel. Illegal immigration funds, criminal networks, ruthless gangs, and the flow of deadly drugs. Illegal immigration exploits vulnerable populations, hurts hardworking citizens, and has produced a vicious cycle of crime, violence, and poverty. Only by upholding national borders, destroying criminal gangs, can we break this cycle and establish a real foundation for prosperity. We recognize the right of every nation in this room to set its own immigration policy in accordance with its national interests, just as we ask other countries to respect our own right to do the same, which we are doing. That is one reason the United States will not participate in the new global compact on migration. Migration should not be governed by an international body unaccountable to our own citizens. Ultimately, the only long-term solution to the migration crisis is to help people build more hopeful futures in their home countries. Make their countries great again.